losing my protection. This is the tag by Amber and Draven. Oh, he must have flew over there. Good. This tree is full of birds sometimes, and I am low vision, so I don't have any clue whether I'm getting any bird footage. I just know there's sounds coming from this direction. But I don't want to make you dizzy. Sorry about that. Even without sight, we can experience birds and nature. We pick up a lot through hearing, which is also why I'm out here now. I hope that you can hear some of those sounds and my voice isn't too loud. You can hear our bird's wings flapping, and through your mind's eye you can feel what he's doing, what movements that they make. I don't really know how to describe it any other way. And of course, we have our psychic senses as well. Not all of us are able to tap into that. Sometimes we might feel energies, so as something passes us, we might pick up on that as well. There are lots of options for people to feel and experience nature, and that's something that I haven't talked about really all that much. It's something that I was a little self-conscious about, and Amber really inspired me to just be myself, and that's how it is for me. I can see things in nature. Yes, I have some sight, but in general, this is how I experience nature. You can feel the wind on your skin and the sun. There are ways, besides that car, welcome to the city, that you can get away despite being in a city. Speaking of that, that is my favorite birch tree. We have two of them. It has been around since I was very little. I used to take the twigs and play with the cat. Sometimes I would practice weaving with the twigs as well. That was fun, just wetting them and soaking them and making little fairy circlets and bracelets, and I did try to make a broom out of it once too. It's very convenient, and this tree is sick and it's starting to get worse, and with some of the work that we've had to do, we may have to remove it, and that is a very devastating blow. Our first one was a Japanese maple that has also been a lifelong friend, and we've had to take that one down. It's because we live up on a hill and everything is pretty narrow here. So the good part is we are replacing things with native plants, and I totally support that. It's still sad for me nonetheless though. This is a white birch, which is Finland's national tree, by the way. I am proud to say that I grew up around the plants that I do despite living here, and I think certain plants can adapt, and I know that our land is changing, and I don't always think that we have to go purely native, though it allows me to truly work closely with the land in its authenticity and meet some of the local plant spirits. So I am very excited about that. I'm gonna have a new tree friend. So I come out here sometimes to watch the birds in the morning and just to listen and just be in nature. And sometimes I sit with my coffee, I meditate, do whatever I need to do to recharge. We've got tons of greenery around here. Sometimes this tree is full of robins, this whole area. We haven't had robins in a while because we cut down, our poor garden has been through a whole lot. We cut down this bush of berries and they used to get drunk off of those, and they don't anymore, sadly. It was funny to watch. And we haven't seen robins since, and that's definitely something in nature that's awakening. And I connect to this place because I grew up putting plants in the ground and building this sanctuary, helping my mom build this sanctuary. We've had a lot of very interesting metaphysical things that have happened on our property. So there is nothing like just your backyard, really. It would be nice to go off somewhere in nature, but I know this piece of land far more than I think any other, and that is the reason I truly connect to it. Because I am low visioned, I love to take photographs of looking up at the trees above me. I hear a bird over there, a couple of them. I love seeing the patterns of light and shadow and the patterns that the leaves leave, especially in dappled light. It is the most magical thing, just laying on the ground and looking up at the trees. Oh my gosh, so many birds. We've had so many birds this year, more than we've ever had, and of course more insects as well. That's definitely been a part of the spring's awakening. There's so many more animals. The doves I've had since I was a little girl, now they are coming back. We have one frog that we are all taking care of, like everybody, all the neighbors, and we're hoping it will produce. We haven't had frogs since I was very little. They mean a lot to me. They make me feel supported and that I'm not alone. I grew up listening to them, just falling asleep listening to them, and I miss them. We've also had a lot of crows move in, and now the crows are starting to leave, and now we're getting ravens. As a Norse pagan, that is so freaking exciting. Over here, we've got some flowers that my mom planted for me because she knows they're my favorite. I've been picking out the flowers in the garden since I was a very little girl, and most of the things we have are native, but these are not. These were an exception that she made for me, which I find really, really sweet. It intrigues me that these are the same flowers. These are hybrided, which I'm pretty mixed about that. I have to admit they are really, really spectacular. I find it interesting that they're variants of the same, the same plant, the same flower. I am feeling that the air is telling me everything is going to be okay, which feels very ironic to the times, but that's what I'm being told, at least where I'm at. And I acknowledge that I live in a very good area, and not much has really happened in comparison to a lot of other places in California, so and a lot of other states too. So I'm very lucky. This was a rock garden, or a rock collection that was left here when we moved, and we've used some of the rocks for some of the plants, and we put the pretty ones on top. Some of them are really interesting. These are rocks that were collected from all over the world. As a kid, I used to pick up some of these Let me see if I can find one that I like. There's so many. There's a couple that are so pretty. I used to pick them up and just look at them. And I think this is where my beginnings of my crystal practice came in. There's a few like pebbles, which I can't really find at the moment. There's one in here that's so pretty, and it always gets lost. It's a polished river rock, and it's so tiny, and it's got a bit of green in it. It looks like an egg or like an almond shape. Oh, here it is. I can feel that this is it. I hope you can see that. The sun is glaring, so I'm not aware of what you're seeing, but yeah, I hope the green is showing. Obviously it's not a bright green, but it is green. I forget what they call these, like Shiva lingams or something like that. Forgive me, I'm probably way butchering that. It's probably a banded agate, and we did take a course in what stones grow best in rivers and bodies of water, so that we can do cool things like build ecosystems when we create fish tanks and aquariums and things like that. We can, work with animals and have knowledge of those things. So we learn which ones gather algae, which ones sometimes have growths that also feed some of the cleaning crew. So that was how all of that got started. And so for me, even though this is not nature, this is a part of my nature. I am sitting in my favorite spot. There's a set of steps by a little garden with a marker for both cats now. And my other cat loved this spot too. Seems like one cat has one half of the yard and the other has the other half. I know that doves mean a whole lot to me. Tons. I love loons. I've loved loons since I was a kid. Swans. And because we are near water, I can sometimes see these birds, although swans and loons are more north of where I am. We get a lot of seagulls here. We've gotten hawks, which is also really new. That's been the last 7 years since COVID. I think if I was going to pick a bird for freedom, it would definitely have to go back to hummingbirds, which are a good bird for finding joy. But it's because they remind me a lot of my grandmother, that they are significant to me, and they are pretty busy, and they have a lot of color, and they're always beautiful, and I love the sound of their wings. So I think that's going to be my answer. As far as creative projects go, I will show you some of them in a minute. What I am most excited to see awaken is me. I am the creative project. I've been breaking down almost every aspect of my life and building a new person, and that has taken a ton of effort. And of course, the plane rolls by. Again, welcome to the city. But I believe you can still hear me. I'll raise my voice a little bit. Anyway, and it leaves. I have been over the shadow work process, but trying to build new things with this state of nothingness or transition, which is the perfect time to talk about this for spring. And I think this is very funny because before this started, I had a draconian song that I liked, and I wanted to do a duet with somebody. And some of the words, I mean, if it wasn't about twin flames, it was very close. And some of the words talked about death and rebirth and thawing out for the spring as a new self or a different set of self. At least that's what I got out of it. And some of draconian stuff is referring to classic literature, poetry. So that was just what it meant to me at the time. And one of my guides asked me, what are you listening to? And I told him I bond with my guides sometimes. And they asked me, what do you want? I can't figure out what it is you want. And I just kind of said, okay, I want this. I want to do this song with somebody. And I said, okay, that'll happen. And I said, wait a minute, I didn't, no verbal contracts. Nah. I'm not that ignorant. And they said, are you sure you want to experience this? And I said, yes. Famous last words. And that's exactly what I'm experiencing. I'm experiencing the new season in such a crazy, profound way. I've never experienced the seasons quite like this. And because I'm experiencing the seasons in a different way, I'm experiencing it probably more to the British witchcraft traditions wheel of the year interpretations, of the different seasons. So it's interesting and very different. So the way that I usually mark the season is birds and flowers, but now that's changing. Now I'm definitely starting to look at green shoots. And that's part of my project too, my spirituality, how I see the world, how I see my practice, how I experience the seasons. And in the other aspects of my life, it has manifested in my lifestyle, my health, my self-care. I never really took the time to care for my emotions, just the health part, the physical parts. And I never really knew how. And that's something that I'm learning now. And that's why I've taken a break from working with the gods and the deities, because I've realized how much I needed this for myself, and that felt like it was a huge tearing apart of my heart, because I wanted to do those things, and I struggled with a lot of guilt because I wasn't doing those things. And then this gets into how I feel now. I feel so upset for people that are having such rough times, that are seeing such scary times. I feel bad for those that can't see the good. I feel bad for those that are struggling as myself. And I feel a little guilty for seeing the good, for even thinking that the earth is telling me that things are going to be okay, because I don't want people to think that I'm watering down what is happening or that I'm ignoring it, because that's not it. And I'm seeing that conflict play out, and it scares me, because I don't want to see us divided. I don't want to say united, not divided, but I don't want to see us so divided that we forget that we are looking at another human being. You know what I'm saying? We can disagree, we can walk away. There needs to be divide. We can't all necessarily be connected, especially as of now. Who knows? We might someday. I don't know. But at some point we have to have boundaries, and that's okay. But we also need to remember that we don't know everything about the other person or their situation. And that has brought me to my advice. Some things that I have learned that I hope will help someone else. Perspective is everything. Everyone has a different understanding of what abundance is, what too much is, what too little is, what the right amount is, what their balance is. Everybody has a different lifestyle and different needs, and everybody experiences the world differently. A person in the marginalized community, as opposed to someone who isn't, is going to have a different experience of the world. And that's just it. It's honoring the difference between the two. And it doesn't mean one is wrong or one is right. It is something that I feel you have to have a conversation with yourself about. In fact, Sophia Lightbringer actually brought that up, and I really enjoyed watching that video, so go check it out if you haven't. It's called Should a Witch Be Political? I feel like I need a break, but it doesn't mean I don't care. I care a lot. And I like that Sophia talked about the different ways that we can support, and this may not be as outward as some people would like, but I have been processing a lot internally, working on myself, working on my expansion of my perspective, and seeing things from different people's point of view, because my grandmother, who is actually Mexican, she in a lot of ways learned to keep her head down, and so she's going to look at the world very differently than say I am, because even though we are related, I am raised in a much more nurturing environment than she was. She was raised with next to nothing, okay? So for her to think about maybe dressing up nice, putting something on, and especially because of her trauma as a woman, to dress in a way that maybe feels sexy, feels suggestive or wrong. And I've had to learn to honor that in her and my elders, because it might be a little harder for them to adjust to some of these new movements, and it's a generational thing, That doesn't mean I pardon anything or that I excuse any bad behaviors. No. I'm just learning to recognize that there may be some things I don't know. And that's something that has been important for me to share, that's something I wanted to share for a long time, but I couldn't put it into words because I was seeing these conflicts go on, and I was seeing people hurting, and I thought this last part of the tag was the perfect way to open this up and talk about it. I myself feel that dressing nice is not something that makes me spoiled. I feel like the want is human, the want to look nice, the want to be presentable. But there is a point where I do have a line. There is a point where I stop and say, okay, this is too much. Like, I don't need to own a $2,000 dress or a $2,000 blouse. You know what I'm saying? So this has now been my new place to connect to the divine, to my ancestors, and to everybody, because as I've mentioned, rosewood was how my first wand was crafted, that I got from actually this specific rose bush. And my cat used to play out here as well. She had her specific spots. So while I have another spot in the yard for meditating with the Norse gods, I have not done that in a very long time because of the things that I've been going through. And I want to get back to that. I hope. I need to get back in the garden period. It's about taking gentle steps. This is going to be my good vibes journal. I just got this book of water birds out just for fun and inspiration. And that's something that I realized. I was asking for love, but I was also asking for inspiration because I've been stuck and isolated. I was asking for a whole new life, and that's exactly what I'm getting. So I've been really reflecting on some of the things that will change and have to change in order for me to take steps forward on my own, which is really scary. But I don't feel alone anymore. I'm not using this journal for anything. It's totally blank. It came from a pack. So while I don't want to use flowers and I wanted to step out of my comfort zone, I haven't used this for anything. And building this new life is going to cost some money. And that's a pretty interesting place to be when prices are rising. I love the colors in this one. And I looked up my lucky colors this year and I really want to start working with them. I know that's like kind of border. It's just for fun and getting in touch with my grandmother who loved to honor the Chinese traditions year round. And so that's just a way that I connect with her. And that's been my way of stepping into my Norse practice and working with my ancestors and past beloveds. So it's one of those I have to learn to separate all these different things out and learn to balance them out, but at the same time they're all related. So this is just going to be blank. There's nothing really profound about it except that there's a really nice thick title page. I love these and I can't wait to do this. This is going to be for the positive energy journal tag that I will be doing soon. I have had to build up the confidence to do a YouTube video like this and show me for who I am, which means sometimes weird expressions when I'm concentrating. Sometimes it means I just can't smile for whatever reason when I'm talking about a subject. Sometimes that means stepping into a leadership role, feeling confident enough to say this is truly how I feel, or feeling confident enough to say, you know what, I don't need to talk about how I feel. I know how I feel. I don't need to prove that to anyone. Learning how to protect my emotions and learning how to nurture them. I kind of mentioned that, but I didn't really talk about that too much. And I think once I get those things down, I truly believe that I can change the outcome of my life. I'm really excited to work on an abundance spell, hopefully for myself. And then once I get there, I'm hoping to expand it out and do some really cool magic that hopefully will help a lot of people. I want to start contributing to collective causes with my magic. And that's something I've never felt confident enough to do in the past. And in here, this is, and by the way, I'm talking about two different grandmothers. This is the Scottish grandmother. There are apple seeds in here that I've collected. There was 6, and 2 of them got lost separately. And I decided that 4 was the perfect amount. And I was going to throw these away because I've been cleaning them out. These are just things that she found from Chinatown and Japantown, those strips that she made there. And I decided these are perfect for keeping spell ingredients in that need to stay hidden, or because they might attract ants or wildlife, things like that. Things that I need to keep fresh or fairly fresh will go in here, and I don't have a place for them now, but I think this will do. My planner has not gotten a whole lot of attention yet, but I'm working on that too. I'm already starting to find meetups. I'm planning on taking some art classes soon, finishing those up, because I took art a long time ago and I never finished them. And I found an online teacher, and I think that would be great for accommodating myself, because I am low vision and I can do some art. And it's fun. I really want to start bringing fun into my life, and I'm hoping that once I do that and kind of settle with things that I can easily do, trying to think about a career or a job would probably be more realistic. So I'm having to take these in steps, and I'm choosing to work with my inner child first, which means that I'm concentrating more on what makes me happy. I will not perform well if I am not happy or motivated. I know me. I've done that pretty much my whole life, and that's the life that I'm leaving behind. There has been a lot of death and a lot of destruction in my life. We're talking about redoing everything. We've been working on the house, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to film outside, but it turned out that I had the chance to do it several times, actually, so I had to be really flexible. I'm thankful for that because I'm really proud of this video. It's probably one of the more creative ones, and that's something I'd like to get back to as well, making YouTube content. But I've had to think about doing that in a whole other way. My actual space is going to need redoing, and that has been put on the back burner. I also don't want to rule out the idea of moving because my bounds or the things that bind me to this place are starting to loosen, which is, I think, a good thing because that means I can stay here or I can go. I have the freedom to choose, and that's a really good place to be. Going back to the advice, when I say try and look at other people's perspectives, I also mean try to accept what you can accept, or like try to accept what you may not be able to understand, because I found that is probably the thing that made my inner work a lot easier, and just striving to be the best person that I can, because I didn't get on myself. I wasn't as slave driving to myself. And it helped me understand slowly why other people don't understand or how these miscommunications happen. And even if they don't get resolved, it helped me resolve them within myself so that I can walk away from the conflict and feel good about that. Or I can just know that right now we're all growing and we're all evolving, and we're all kind of going through this period of reflecting. And I definitely see that on YouTube, and yet with my family, they oftentimes just outward refuse. And there are times when I need to be around my family and times I need to be around people in the YouTube community. I do hear some of the grief when I hear people talking. I hear it in my own voice too. And sometimes it's hard to be around that vibration, but I also want to honor that as well. So just accepting that I might have blind spots, or fully accepting that I don't get something. I feel like that's the key to making your inner work a little more lighthearted, a little more fun, because once you can do that, you can learn to laugh at yourself. You can learn to take learning into a much more healthier perspective, instead of, oh, I have to do this thing because I'm evil unless I do. You know what I'm saying? I think that's going to be it. I'm not going to draw a card, even though the rest of this is inside. I've felt from Mother Earth for a long time that things are either rebalancing or going to be okay. I can't ignore that we may not live to see that. Sorry, not sorry, just gonna be blunt about it. But I have felt that for a long time, and I continue to feel that. Just this overemphasis on really, it's okay, it's going to be okay. So that is going to be my message. Thank you very much, Draven and Amber, for creating this tag. I'm so happy I finally got to do one. And I've watched a couple videos. Thank you to all that participated. I'm really excited in watching more. Until next time.